There's a certain kind of confidence that's unassuming, doesn't crave attention, and doesn't waste energy trying to impress others. It's subtle, self-assured, and a bit intimidating. Many people think being confident means being loud, boasting, and dominating conversations. But Machiavelli recognized a deeper truth. True power often looks calm and collected, while others scramble for recognition. A person with genuine confidence walks into a room without seeking approval. They don't rush to justify their decisions, don't get emotional when someone pushes back, and certainly don't share their innermost thought with those who haven't earned the right to hear them. That's a discomfort for many around them. When someone can't be swayed by applause, fear, or social pressure, society often labels them cold, arrogant, or unpredictable. In reality, they've just mastered themselves. Machiavelli believed that real power emerges when you stop chasing validation and start taking control of your emotions, perceptions, and the moments of silence in between. Today, we're diving into the mindset of those who exude dangerous confidence. These are individuals who operate on a different wavelength, think outside the box, and follow rules that most people shy away from. Once you recognize these traits, you'll no longer confuse being loud with being truly confident. A lot of people don't even realize how much they're seeking approval. They think they're just being agreeable, strategic, or socially slick. But at the heart of it all is a simple impulse. Please accept me. Seeking approval doesn't always look desperate. It often hides in subtle behaviors, softening your opinions when challenged, laughing off disrespect, over-explaining your choices, downplaying your successes, or scanning the faces around you to gauge agreement. These aren't harmless habits. They're indicators. Social structures often hinge on these signals. In any room, the key question is, who relies on whom? The person looking for approval answers that question loud and clear. When you seek validation, you unwittingly position yourself beneath others. To crave approval is to give others power over your emotional state, and that equates to psychological submission. Machiavelli understood a brutal reality. If you can't be loved and feared simultaneously, it's wiser to aim for respect. Love is based on approval. Respect comes from strength. The moment you change yourself to avoid discomfort, you show your dependence. And dependence is perceived as weakness in any power dynamic, whether in your job, romantic relationships, or politics. Listen to how most people communicate. They often turn statements into questions. I think this might work. Maybe we could try that. Just my opinion. That's not humility. It's a fear of rejection masked as politeness. Dangerous confidence cuts through this reflex. When they speak, they make statements. When they decide, they act. They know agreement isn't necessary. A man who embodies dangerous confidence grasps something most people miss. Disapproval isn't the end of the world. It merely creates friction, which helps define hierarchies. You can expect some resistance when you stand firm. While some people might push back, others will pull away their warmth. That's fine. Seeking approval often comes from a fear of exclusion, and humans are hardwired to avoid being cast out. That instinct still influences modern behavior. Hence, we often compromise, dull our edges, adjust our tones, and seek to blend in. But safety doesn't build respect. It just makes you accessible, which can diminish your perceived value. Pay attention to what happens when a man stops seeking approval. He won't laugh at jokes that undermine him. He won't nod along just to keep peace. He won't justify himself to avoid conflict. Initially, people might try to test him. You've changed. Relax. Why so serious? These are probes of compliance, attempts to restore the old hierarchy. If he bends, he confirms weakness. If he stands firm, things begin to shift. People recalibrate because what doesn't give way becomes a new reference point. Those who seek approval are easy to manipulate. Withdraw praise, and they'll try harder. Pull back attention, and they'll chase you. But the dangerously confident man, he won't be swayed. Why? His identity isn't built on external factors. He doesn't need applause to feel solid. He doesn't look for agreement to feel secure. This isn't arrogance, it's self-sovereignty. There's a big difference here. Not begging for approval doesn't mean rejecting feedback. It means you don't rely on it emotionally. You can listen without shrinking, adjust without feeling the need to apologize for existing. You can negotiate without compromising your frame. That's real power. Machiavelli warned that visible weakness invites attack, and seeking approval is a clear sign of weakness. It signifies that your stability relies on outside forces, and anything controlled externally can be manipulated. When you stop seeking validation, three things shift. First, you lose certain people. Those who thrive on your compliance will see you as a threat. Second, clarity emerges. You start to identify who truly respect you versus those who merely tolerated your submissiveness. Lastly, your presence changes. You speak more deliberately. Your reactions become more measured. You hold your ground without feeling the need to fill silence with nervous chatter. A quiet authority develops, not from demanding respect, but because you've ceased to negotiate your worth. And here's the paradox. When you let go of seeking approval, you often end up receiving more of it, though by that point, it becomes irrelevant. The essence of dangerous confidence is this. When commendation doesn't inflate your ego, when criticism doesn't unsettle you, and when agreement doesn't define your worth, you no longer feel the need to beg. You stand firm, and the environment adjusts to you. Hesitation often speaks louder than words. It signals doubt before you complete your thoughts. It reveals insecurity long before anyone challenges you. Many men mistakenly believe hesitation equals caution, but it actually places them in a subordinate role. The world picks up on those micro-delays, a pause before a handshake, a hesitant glance before responding, a late reply when faced with a challenge. These moments aren't neutral. They're indicators, and in any hierarchy, those indicators determine rank. When you hesitate, you communicate uncertainty in your authority, and that uncertainty invites others to take control. There's a good reason decisive leaders command a room even when they make mistakes. Certainty, even if flawed, feels stronger than doubt. Machiavelli understood this profoundly. A ruler who appears indecisive fosters instability. If direction wavers, loyalty wanes. The same principle applies socially. If you hesitate in a conversation, people will interrupt you. If you hesitate in decision-making, others will override your choices. If you hesitate while establishing boundaries, others will test you. Hesitation provides openings. Dangerous confidence seals them shut. This doesn't mean being reckless. It's about maintaining decisive composure. The dangerously confident person processes internally, but when they move, they do so decisively. There's no floundering, no scrambling for words, no apologetic tone. They understand an essential truth. Indecision transfers power. When you hesitate, you subtly signal to the room that you're looking for confirmation in your direction. The moment you look outward, you stop leading. Consider how most people react to direct questions. What do you want? I'm not sure. Maybe. Or what do you think? The answers are often shields from accountability. But those shields also broadcast fear. Dangerous confidence strips away this verbal fog. If they know the answer, they state it. If they are unsure, they say, I'll decide. See the difference? It's not about saying, I don't know, or asking, what do you think? It's about asserting control. Hesitation manifests physically too, fidgeting, shifting posture, breaking eye contact when challenged. The body often reveals what the mind tries to conceal. Human beings are instinctively wired to observe physical certainty before engaging in logical arguments. In confrontations, whether verbal or physical, the one who acts first with confidence often dictates the psychological setting. Predators don't hesitate before they attack. Competitors don't pause before they assert themselves. Why? Because hesitation signals vulnerability. But there's a deeper aspect to hesitation. It often springs from fear of consequences, fear of being wrong, fear of judgment, fear of losing status. As a result, you delay, you soften your approach, you stall. Here's the truth. You'll be judged regardless. You'll face testing and challenges no matter what. Hesitation doesn't prevent consequences. It merely weakens your position in facing them. The dangerously confident person adopts a mindset that most shy away from. Every choice comes with risks, so they make choices. And if they adjust without collapsing emotionally. That's the crucial takeaway. Being decisive isn't about being correct every time. It's about avoiding paralysis. Paralysis erodes authority faster than simply being wrong. People are forgiving of mistakes, but they don't follow uncertainty. When you hesitate, others will step in. When you take action, others will adapt. This dynamic plays out in negotiations. where the one who puts forth a number first often controls a narrative. It applies to relationships too. Whoever defines the standards first shapes the expectations. In conflict, the one who responds quickly sets the tone. Hesitation represents a retreat, and retreats open the door to pursuit. Not hesitating doesn't equate to impulsive aggression. It means maintaining a decisive presence. Think first, then act, speak, then hold your ground. Even silence, when intentional, is a form of decision. But wavering silence, that's weakness. There's a clear distinction here. Dangerous confidence operates from internal conviction. It doesn't seek consensus before taking action. It doesn't broadcast out. It doesn't ask for permission. Here's the irony. The more decisively you act, the less pushback you encounter. Certainty builds momentum, and momentum shapes perceptions of competence. In any social hierarchy, be it corporate or political, the decisive rise faster than the hesitant, not due to intelligence, but simply because they take action. So, cut out hesitation, eliminate stuttering, clear away the verbal clutter, decide, act, and adjust if needed, but never hesitate. Because in power dynamics, the instant you hesitate, you've already relinquished ground. Most individuals threaten to exit a situation. Dangerous individuals act. There's a difference. The average person will announce their departure. They argue, explain, and deliver speeches about fairness and respect because deep down, they still want to be convinced to stay. That's not power, it's attachment. The dangerously confident person knows one fundamental truth. Your ability to walk away sets your leverage. If you can't leave, you can't negotiate. This holds true in business, relationships, friendships, and social hierarchies. The individual who needs a deal inevitably loses it. The one who craves validation chases it. The person who relies on approval submits to it. Need is evident, and visible need is vulnerable. Machiavelli recognized reliance as a sign of weakness. A ruler who depends too heavily on borrowed loyalty is fragile, and the same applies today. If your stability hinges on someone else's presence, they've already claimed part of your power. Walking away isn't about being emotional. It's about establishing a structure. It sends a clear message. I don't rely on this. Many people stick around longer than they should. They tolerate subtle disrespect, negotiate after lines are being crossed, and justify why they deserve better. But once you start arguing for your worth, you diminish it. True value is demonstrated through withdrawal, not debate. Watch what happens when someone senses that you might leave. Their tone shifts, urgency spikes, and their behavior adjusts. Scarcity recalibrates perceptions, making presence feel heavier when absence is a possibility. But here's where many go wrong. They threaten to leave in a bid for compliance. If this continues, I'm done. If you don't change, I'll walk away. These emotional ultimatums reek of hesitation. The dangerously confident individual doesn't announce their exit. They quietly evaluate. If the environment no longer matches their standards, they simply withdraw access. No anger, no drama, no lengthy explanations, just distance. Silence can often unsettle more than confrontations. Why? Because unpredictability breeds anxiety. When you exit without fanfare, people feel the change much more intensely. There's no argument to counter, no word to debate, just your absence, and that carries weight. Walking away without warning takes inner strength. It demands you be emotionally self-sufficient because once you detach, there's no promise that the door will reopen. And that's the crux. You need to be ready to lose what you leave behind. Many aren't. They cling to what's familiar, to comfort, to social security. So they compromise. Compromise becomes habitual. Habit becomes an identity. Identity turns into submission. The dangerously confident individual rejects the slow erosion. The first significant breach of standards is the last one, not out of fragility, but because they understand the principle of reinforcement. What you allow teaches others how to treat you. If disrespect goes unchecked, it becomes a norm. If misalignment carries no consequences, it'll repeat. Walking away shifts the balance. It sets a reputation that compounds over time. When people recognize that you'll walk away without drama, they think twice before crossing lines. They adjust tone, weighing consequences before acting, not due to fear, but because your history proves you take action. This is crucial. Power isn't about being loud. It's about consistency. And a blend of consistency with detachment can be intimidating. Another psychological shift comes into play. The moment you genuinely understand that you can walk away from anything, be it a job, deal, relationship, or audience, your energy begins to change. You become less reactive, less needy, and less easily controlled. You negotiate from a position of strength. You engage without the fear of loss, and that absence of fear is palpable. People can sense when they are optional in someone's life, and paradoxically, that often increases a desire to remain. But that can't be your goal. If you walk away to provoke pursuit, you're still tethered. True detachment is clean. If it works, great. If not, move on. No resentment, no collapse, no self-betrayal, just forward momentum. Because the most formidable person in any hierarchy is the one who can genuinely leave and mean it. Weak individuals repeat their demands. Dangerous individuals take action once. Most people lay out boundaries from a place of emotion. Don't do that again. I don't appreciate this. Please respect me. Yet when those behaviors recur, they find themselves negotiating again. They explain, rationalize, and hope for compliance. Rarely does it come voluntarily. A boundary without consequence is merely a suggestion, and suggestions invite testing. Every social structure thrives on reinforcement patterns. If someone crosses your line without repercussion, the mind registers safety. No cost, no consequences, so they'll try again. This isn't personal. It's behavioral conditioning. Machiavelli understood this in terms of governance and rebellion. Inconsistent punishment breeds disorder, and delayed enforcement weakens authority. The same rule applies to personal power. When you set a boundary, it must be clear, calm, direct, and unapologetic. No lengthy speeches, no emotional displays, just clarity. But clarity alone won't cut it. The next part distinguishes the dangerously confident from the insecure. Enforce it once, not with loudness or anger, but decisively. If someone disrespects you, limit their access. If someone undermines you, withdraw your cooperation. If someone crosses your standard, remove their privileges. Consequences teach faster than explanations. Many men fear enforcement because they dread conflict. They want to maintain harmony. But harmony based on tolerated disrespect is simply quiet submission. When you repeat a boundary unnecessarily, you project uncertainty. You signal discomfort with taking action, which invites escalation. People subconsciously test stability, gently pushing to see if you will bend. And if you do, they'll push harder. The dangerously confident individual doesn't escalate emotionally. They escalate structurally. There's a key distinction. Emotional escalation manifests as anger, raised voices, and dramatic confrontations. Structural escalation is action-oriented. Less time, less attention, less cooperation. The shift is immediately felt, and because it's calm, it carries more weight. Here's another crucial point. Do not debate your boundaries. Debate weakens your position. If you allow negotiation around your standards, you suggest they are flexible. While there's room for compromise and strategy, there's no room for it in core values. The dangerously confident individual knows the difference. They don't argue for understanding. They act for respect. Most people overlook a paradox here. The fewer boundaries you establish but enforce consistently, the more formidable your reputation becomes. If you're constantly drawing new lines, you risk appearing reactive. Draw a few lines and defend them with decisiveness, and you'll come across as stable. That stability creates authority, which in turn reduces the need for repetition. In time, people will adapt. They'll learn your patterns and calculate before they act, not because you intimidate them, but because you're predictable in enforcement. Consistency builds credibility, while inconsistency destroys it. There's also a level of internal discipline required. Setting boundaries once means being prepared to walk away from what crosses them, loss of a deal, friendship, or opportunity. If you can't handle that, your boundary will appear performative, and performative strength gets exposed quickly. The dangerously confident person recognizes that anything requiring them to tolerate repeated disrespect is far too costly to keep. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about controlling yourself. They outline what you'll engage with and what you won't. They safeguard your time, energy, and status, sending a powerful message. My standards aren't negotiable. When people sense this, they adapt swiftly, measuring tone, adjusting behavior. thinking twice before stepping over boundaries. Enforcing a boundary once communicates more than a dozen explanations. So, speak clearly. Draw your line calmly. If it's crossed, take action, not twice, but once. Let your consistency build your reputation on its own. The insecure talk to prove their worth. The dangerous speak to position themselves. And there's a significant difference. Many men give away their power through excessive explanation. They feel the need to showcase intelligence, demonstrate competence verbally. So they over-explain, revealing plans too soon and sharing opinions too freely. They fill silence with chatter to dodge discomfort, but in doing so, they leak power. Information is leverage. The more you expose, the easier it is for others to calculate your moves. Predictability reduces threat, and what doesn't present a threat is seldom respected. Machiavelli advised rulers against revealing their full intentions. A leader who lays out their entire strategy risks sabotage. This principle applies socially too. When you hold back some of what you know, three outcomes arise. First, you gather insights. Others often reveal their insecurities and ambitions when they talk. Second, you create psychological tension. Silence can unsettle the uninitiated. When you don't rush to speak, others attach meaning to your quietude, speculating on your thoughts and measuring their words with caution. Creating a sense of mystery enhances perceived depth. Third, your words become more potent. When someone speaks constantly, their voice fades into the background. When someone speaks selectively, their words resonate more. Scarcity adds value, even in conversation. Most people dread silence, equating it with awkwardness. They rush to fill it with superfluous language or unnecessary details to gain a sense of security. Dangerous confidence is at ease with silence. This isn't emptiness, it's strategic positioning. Think about negotiations. The first person to speak after an offer typically weakens their position. The one who holds back creates pressure, prompting the other side to clarify, justify, or adjust. Silence exerts pressure without hostility. In conflicts, excessive explanations can signal defensiveness. When someone reacts with, "I didn't mean it like that," or "let me clarify what I was thinking," those explanations can be useful, but compulsive justification reveals submission. The more you justify, the more you signal fear of misinterpretation, which can lower your standing. Speaking less doesn't mean ignorance. It signifies control. You choose what to disclose and when. Timing is essential. Reveal too early, and you risk losing leverage. Reveal too late, and you miss opportunities. The dangerously confident individual knows when to speak and when to hold back. They understand that every sentence influences perception. Even casual conversation is strategic ground. Most people tend to speak impulsively, narrating thoughts on the fly, exposing shifting opinions without a filter. Premature exposure gives others a chance to anchor you to statements you may later revise. By speaking less, you maintain flexibility. You observe first, then position yourself. There's also a psychological nuance to consider. Those who listen more than they talk are often perceived as more intelligent, even without proof. People associate quiet observation with depth, while constant talking is subconsciously viewed as insecurity. Real confidence doesn't demand constant output, it chooses its moments. There's strength in letting others underestimate how perceptive you are. When others believe you're not paying attention, they tend to relax, revealing much more than they intend. Machiavelli would advise maintaining an open demeanor while revealing little. This isn't manipulation for manipulation's sake, it's self-preservation. The more you expose your inner workings, the more susceptible you are to manipulation. Restraint breeds unpredictability. Unpredictability fosters caution. Caution cultivates respect. Respect leads to influence. So, slow down your speech. Eliminate unnecessary details. Conclude your sentences neatly. Resist the compulsion to clarify every subtlety. Allow silence to linger. Let others feel that silence, exposing themselves while you stay composed. In every hierarchy, the one who controls information dictates the direction, and the one who speaks less than they know holds more power than they might realize. Speed reveals a lot. Hasty speech, rapid decisions, and knee-jerk reactions are not indicators of efficiency. They instead signal pressure, which hints at vulnerability. The dangerously confident individual grasps a subtle law of dominance. Whoever controls the pace also controls the frame. Many individuals move quickly because they subconsciously seek approval, responding impulsively to communications or rushing to fill silence. Why? Because silence can feel like judgment. Delay often feels risky, while slowing down seems like losing momentum. In reality, though, rushing transfers power. When you hurry, you adapt to someone else's tempo. When you adjust to their frame, you relinquish control. Machiavelli understood this well in terms of leadership and negotiations. A ruler who reacts impulsively to threats appears unstable, while one who pauses to evaluate before acting appears sovereign. The same goes for social interactions. If someone challenges you and you respond in haste, you seem triggered. If someone pressures you for a swift answer and you comply immediately, you exhibit need. The dangerously confident individual slows down. They pause before responding, not awkwardly, but purposely. That pause creates tension, which shifts authority. Silence can be uncomfortable for most. They often rush to break it. They clutter it with words that can undermine their position. When you maintain calm and silence, you apply unseen pressure. The other person will likely start to clarify, elaborate, and reveal more than intended. Controlling the pace also impacts physical presence. Walk slower than average. Move with intention. Avoid fidgeting or rushed gestures. Quick movements signal anxiety, while deliberate ones convey stability. Then there's the matter of conversational tempo. Most people answer direct questions immediately, fearing they might seem unprepared. The dangerously confident individual allows for space. They think before responding, indicating that their words are intentional and not reactive. In negotiations, pacing becomes a tactical advantage. When someone tries to impose urgency, we need an answer now. It's often a strategic pressure tactic. The one who remains calm under such urgency keeps leverage. Saying, "I'll think about it and get back to you," gives you back control. Tempo equals control. Control equals power. Pace also shapes perceptions and arguments. If you raise your voice quickly, you come across as emotional. Maintain a steady tone, and you'll seem composed. Speak slower than your opponent, and it portrays you as grounded. Rapid speech frequently hides insecurity, while slower speech radiates certainty. Another layer to consider in this digital age, instant replies train others to expect constant availability. Delayed, intentional responses foster respect for your time. Accessibility diminishes value, while measured accessibility enhances it. Controlling your pace doesn't mean artificial slowness. It means establishing a deliberate rhythm. You shouldn't react to the room. You dictate the tempo. When your movements are deliberate, your speech measured, your responses calculated, a shift occurs. People begin to lean in, listen more closely, and think twice before interrupting because you're not operating at their hurried pace. You're moving at yours. The dangerously confident individual never. Risky, while slowing down seems like losing momentum. In reality, though, rushing transfers power. When you hurry, you adapt to someone else's tempo. When you adjust to their frame, you relinquish control. Machiavelli understood this well in terms of leadership and negotiations. A ruler who reacts impulsively to threats appears unstable, while one who pauses to evaluate before acting appears sovereign. The same goes for social interactions. If someone challenges you and you respond in haste, you seem triggered. If someone pressures you for a swift answer and you comply immediately, you exhibit need. The dangerously confident individual slows down. They pause before responding, not awkwardly, but purposely. That pause creates tension, which shifts authority. Silence can be uncomfortable for most. They often rush to break it. They clutter it with words that can undermine their position. When you maintain calm and silence, you apply unseen pressure. The other person will likely start to clarify, elaborate, and reveal more than intended. Controlling the pace also impacts physical presence. Walk slower than average. Move with intention. Avoid fidgeting or rushed gestures. Quick movements signal anxiety, while deliberate ones convey stability. Then there's the matter of conversational tempo. Most people answer direct questions immediately, fearing they might seem unprepared. The dangerously confident individual allows for space. They think before responding, indicating that their words are intentional and not reactive. In negotiations, pacing becomes a tactical advantage. When someone tries to impose urgency, we need an answer now. It's often a strategic pressure tactic. The one who remains calm under such urgency keeps leverage. Saying, I'll think about it and get back to you gives you back control. Tempo equals control. Control equals power. Pace also shapes perceptions and arguments. If you raise your voice quickly, you come across as emotional. Maintain a steady tone, and you'll seem composed. Speak slower than your opponent, and it portrays you as grounded. Rapid speech frequently hides insecurity, while slower speech radiates certainty. Another layer to consider in this digital age, instant replies train others to expect constant availability. Delayed, intentional responses foster respect for your time. Accessibility diminishes value, while measured accessibility enhances it. Controlling your pace doesn't mean artificial slowness. It means establishing a deliberate rhythm. You shouldn't react to the room. You dictate the tempo. When your movements are deliberate, your speech measured, your responses calculated, a shift occurs. People begin to lean in, listen more closely, and think twice before interrupting because you're not operating at their hurried pace. You're moving at yours. The dangerously confident individual never allows urgency to override composure. They recognize that speed is frequently emotional, and visible emotion can undermine authority. This isn't about being lazy. It's about knowing how to calibrate your responses. Think swiftly internally, but move deliberately externally. Let others rush, scramble, and reveal their anxiety while you stay steady. Because the person who cannot be hurried is the one who can't be controlled, and that's the individual who quietly holds influence over everything around them. Attachment often feels like a chain for many men. They might label it ambition, passion, or desire, but underneath lies fear. Fear of losing a deal, a partner, status, or opportunities. And that fear, no matter how deeply buried, will leak out through tone, body language, micro-expressions, and hasty decisions. The moment someone senses your need, the power dynamic alters, because need translates to leverage. Machiavelli cautioned that a ruler depending excessively on fortune is vulnerable. If your power is conditional on external circumstances, those circumstances can dictate your actions. The same is true for confidence. If your emotional stability hinges on outcomes, you're not truly confident. You're conditional. Detachment doesn't equate to indifference, it's independence. You can desire something passionately without tying your identity to it. You can pursue goals strategically yet remain ready to let go without breakdown. That shift transforms everything. The person who needs a deal negotiates from a position of scarcity. They concede too quickly, tolerate unfavorable terms. In contrast, the one who doesn't need it works from a place of strength. They hesitate to make concessions, they push back, they walk away if necessary. In negotiation psychology, the party most willing to disengage holds the upper hand. Why? Because power belongs to those who can withstand loss without destabilization. If losing undermines you, you've already lost a part of your strength. But if losing merely inconveniences you without shaking you to the core, you're dangerous. This principle reaches beyond business into personal relationships. Attachment can breed submission. Fear of being alone leads to toleration of disrespect. Fear of abandonment causes silencing of standards. Fear of rejection prompts softening of truths. Fear makes you predictable, and predictability invites manipulation. The dangerously confident person remains unpredictable because they are unattached. They appreciate value but don't cling. They invest yet don't rely. If opportunities vanish, they recalibrate. If relationships end, they carry on. If plans stumble, they adapt. There's no emotional collapse, no scrambling for validation, only forward movement. Detachment dispels desperation, and desperation reeks of weakness. People pick up on it immediately. They can sense when you're fearful of losing them, when you've overcommitted, when your identity hinges on their choices. Once they detect it, they assume psychological control. But when your energy conveys, "I prefer this, but I don't need it," everything shifts. Your speech slows, your posture stabilizes, your decisions become sharper. You're no longer negotiating from fear. You're operating from a place of choice. Choice is power, while desperation equals submission. There's also a more profound layer to uncover. Many men mistakenly link outcomes to their self-worth. If I succeed, I'm valuable. If I fail, I'm inadequate. That mindset can be catastrophic because every result becomes a verdict on your identity. The dangerously confident person separates their action from their self-worth. If they succeed, they acknowledge it. If they fail, They analyze it, but neither outcome defines them. They remain anchored from within, and that anchoring is rare. Rarity commands respect. Here's a paradox that many overlook. When you genuinely detach from outcomes, your performance often improves. Pressure diminishes, clarity sharpens, and emotions stabilize. You're no longer trying to force reality. You're engaging with it intelligently. But remember, detachment can't be a tactic to manipulate results. If you detach hoping to elicit pursuit, you're still attached. True detachment is clear and clean. If it succeeds, great. If it doesn't, then move on. No resentment, no breakdown, no self-betrayal, just progress. Because the most dangerous person in any hierarchy is the one who can walk away and mean it. If you can't be boxed in, you can't be controlled. And when you can't be controlled, you set the terms. Never beg for approval. Never hesitate. Speak less than you know. Walk away at will. Establish boundaries once. Control your pace.